All right, today we're talking about absolute value equations and how to solve them. Well, if you remember, absolute value means distance. Okay, it's a distance a number is back to zero. So when we first started these a long time ago, it was like the absolute value of 12 is 12. The absolute value of negative 12 is 12 because they're both 12 spaces back from zero. Well, because we're talking about two different locations on that number line, one usually in the positive region, the other is in the negative region on that number line. Because we talk about that, and absolute value tends to have two different locations that are the same distance back to zero. Okay, when we solve an absolute value equation, we're going to have to come up with two different equations to come up with, hopefully, the two different solutions. And so the way we do that is quite simple. We're going to simply just take our equation here, okay, and I'm going to write it two different ways. One, I'm going to write it just like it's written. Okay, then it's or, and then because we're going to talk about like the positive number over here that will equal 13, as well as the negative number, I'm going to do the same thing, but in this time, I'm going to have that negative sign right there. And then I'm just going to solve the two of them. So here, if I add 4, so x equals 17, or over here is a little bit more effort because you have to distribute this. So you get negative x plus 4 equals 13. I'd subtract 4. Negative x equals 9. So x equals negative 9. Okay, so my two solutions, okay, real numbers x such that x is equal to negative 9 or 17. So how do I know that's true? Well, the easiest way is to just plug in. If I were to plug in negative 9 minus 4, that'd be negative 13. Absolute value is positive 13. Take 17. 17 minus 4 is 13. Absolute value is 13. Pretty simple. Well, let's do another one. Well, the difference on this one is the fact that this has this negative 3 sitting here. So before you do any sort of splitting up here, you have to get the absolute value by itself. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide by negative 3. So the absolute value of 4x minus 9 equals 8. And then I'm just going to split up. So 4x minus 9 equals 8. And then negative 4x minus 9 equals 8. Okay, or. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides here. So 4x equals 17, divide x equals 17 fourths, or 4 1/4. Over here, what you could do is you could actually divide by a negative 1 here, just to get that negative out of there. Just an alternative. Add 9. 4x equals 1, so x is 1/4. So if I put my solution up here, all values of x such that x is 1/4 and 4 1/4. Okay, pretty straightforward so far. Let's talk about this one though. So here, this one's a little different in that we have the absolute value, but then we have variables over here. But that doesn't really change anything. We're still going to solve it the same way. We're still going to write 8 plus p equals 2p minus 3. And then I'm going to write negative 8 plus p equals 2p minus 3. So let's just simplify here. Let's see, I'm going to subtract p. 8 equals p minus 3. Add 3 to the other side. P is 11. Over here I got to distribute, so negative 8 minus p equals 2p minus 3. If I were to add p, I get 3p minus 3. Add 3, negative 5 equals 3p. Divide, negative 5/3. Okay, so I get those two results right there. Now, if I take a look at these here, we have a little bit of a problem because as I go through and do at least a mental check here, And if I were to plug in 11, I get 8 plus 11, that's 19. Over here I get 22 minus 3 is 19. But when I go through and I plug in this negative 5/3, and without even doing all the algebra here, or the arithmetic, pardon me, of adding 8 plus negative 5/3, I actually know that this is going to be an impossible solution. Because if I were to plug in negative 5/3 over here, I'm going to get a positive answer eventually. If I add 8 plus negative 5/3, take the absolute value, it'll be a positive answer. But if I plug negative 5/3 over here, I'm going to get a negative answer. 2 times negative 5/3 is a negative number. Minus 3 is a negative number. So both sides won't equal each other. So we have to get rid of this. This is called an extraneous solution. Okay, so you have to go back and check yourself, even if it's just a mental check, to make sure that both your answers work in the problem. So the only solution we have for this one is 11. Okay, and that's how you solve absolute value equations.